Aloha, malo, lele, and good morning. Welcome to the Talanoa podcast. I'm your host, Kepu, and today we have a very special guest all the way from the islands of Tahiti. We have William Tuahivaatetonohiti. He's gonna be he's gonna be talking to us about finances, budgeting, and financial literacy, investing, all this good stuff. How I met Will is that we used to work together at the PCC, the Polynesian Cultural Center in the Hawaiian Village for our summer jobs. And so we connected on social media and stuff. And it wasn't until like the past 6 months or so, they started to notice Will post about investment, future trading. And I was really interested to see what he was doing because he was posting daily and he was like sharing his progress and stuff, and he was promoting on social media. So I asked to sit down with him, and for like about an hour, we just talked a lot about his journey with investing and just talking about finances in general. And I was very impressed with all the hard work that he has done in the past 3 years. And so here he is, and hopefully he can share and inspire, educate, and inform us on this episode about finances. And I'll give you this time to introduce yourself and where you're from and tell us a little bit about your journey with finances.
Sounds good. Yeah, I'm Guillaume, and I go by William from Tahiti. I'm currently majoring, I graduated in June with a bachelor in computer science. So finances, it's I've never thought I would have been involved in investing and everything like that. Like I've always looked on like investing, anything that's close to stock market, like gambling, because I didn't know much about it. It's only, I think it's when I came back from my, my mission, my religious duty, that my brother told me to look into Forex, for like foreign exchange, and just to learn a little bit about it, because he was doing that when he was my age, when he attended BYU Hawaii 15 years ago or so. And so I looked into that a little bit, not too seriously, and I was like, oh yeah, I guess there's money to doing that. But I think it was back in 2018 that I looked briefly, didn't do much. I didn't put any money in that. I was just focused to get into a university, get a degree, and then I wanted to get a job. And then it was until I would say the beginning of the pandemic that I started to be curious about finances, and just I had a lot of questions, just like because I was taking at the time a lot of business classes and entrepreneurships, and so they were all talking about financial independence,
Independence,
freedom, financial freedom, and I started to look into that. And then I had many questions, like what happened in 2008, like what's the big deal about it? Because I was a kid, I didn't understand what happened with the banks. A lot of companies dropped and bankrupt, bailed out, and so I didn't understand. I started to investigate a little bit into that, and I liked it. And the thing is, because I'm computer science, I'm also very interested about the US stock technologies, so like Google, Netflix, Amazon. And I was seeing Amazon, like they were a big company, and I knew that they were a big company, but I didn't know how strong their stock was, and still is. And so I opened a Robinhood account, dabbled a little bit, make a few $100, which was good. And it was at the time when we met together, like I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, something like that. I was working at the PCC in the Hawaiian Village, and I was just in the morning, just see how the stocks are going. And sometimes I was making like $50, and I was so happy. I thought I knew everything. I was like, yeah, I got it. Like, and then the next day it drops, everything drops, and I lose everything. I'm like, oh, maybe not. And so I dabbled. I just played around, and then it was until just last year that I was like, you know what? If I don't do it now, I know I'm gonna regret it forever. And it's something that I was very and genuinely interested about. And so I started to take it more seriously. And then I made instead of a couple dozens and hundred, I was making like couple $1,000 that that's where like I bought the engagement ring for my wife now. That's how I pay tuitions, like housing and stuff like that right now. And then it's a gradual, like it was gradually, I was gradually introduced to that, investment kind of thing. And I was lucky to have teachers that invested both in the real estate and into stocks that I could ask. I was asking them like, how do you know it's gonna go up? How do you know it's gonna go down? Those type of stuff. And they were like, oh, it's supply and demand. You just need to understand how it works and you're fine. And I was like, they talk about it like it's easy to understand, but yeah, there's a lot going on behind the scenes. And that's where I got very curious about. Now I have a job after graduation in computer science field, like software development. That I'm still gonna do because that's something I enjoy. And so I have two different fields that I really enjoy and really passionate about. Very different. They can be linked, but investment. Can you hear me? Oh yeah, but
Sorry.
investment in itself.
Go ahead. Can you hear what's going on outside?
No.
Oh, okay, you're good.
But like investment, it's hard, but that's something I kind of enjoy because there's a lot of math going on behind, and I just enjoy like seeing how numbers work out, how in 10 years where we're going to be, and all that stuff. If I don't succeed in that, I wouldn't regret it because again, it's something like I decided last year, hey, I won't take it a little bit more seriously, otherwise. I'm gonna have another chance to get into that.
Did you yeah, thank you first of all, thank you for sharing. So I remember we talked about this, but it took you like a lot of research, a lot of reading before you got into this. Talk a little bit about that, your process of preparing to actually do.
Yeah, so my first thing that I did was going on YouTube, and it's a mistake to do that because YouTube is a social platform, it's a social media, and so the first thing you will see is people, I would say, flexing a little bit, like I make $10,000 in a day. That's how I do it, and they show you like 5-10 minutes. It's great, like I don't bash on them, but at the same time, as a newcomer to in this financial market, it can be confusing to understand that it's not that easy. And so I started by watching YouTube videos, which I don't really recommend. And so there are books, but most of the books that I've read, they all say the same thing, that in my own words, they all say that it doesn't matter what tools you use to analyze the market, or what like indicators, right? Because we have charts, and you can add lines and colors and indicators to see how the market moves. And a lot of them were like, it doesn't matter how many indicators you have. It's all a psychology. Like if you have the mindset, you will succeed. And I was like, yeah, blah blah blah. Those people, millionaires, they all say the same thing. Like if you put your mind into it, you will succeed.
Right.
But what I came to find later on is, when you put money and you see the profit and loss going up and down, and you're alone in front of your phone, tablet, or computer, or whatever, you have your hand on the mouse, and you see $50, $100, $200, $300, and you're like, it's because I was used to be paid minimum wage, $10 an hour, and now I'm like, in 5 seconds I'm seeing 300. I'm like, what is going on? What is going on?
Right.
What I mean? And so when you start to have those numbers and you start to get confidence, and then you're chasing after the big numbers, right? And that's the thing I came to understand, that it's a psychological thing, that you get too cocky or you're too confident, you're too confident, or even sometimes you're just too scared now just to lose money. Or even when you're losing money, you're like, oh, I have to get that back. It's like revenge trading or revenge investment. And so those are the hardest thing, because those are like, I would say it's a human nature. It's part of us. Yeah, those things, they were like my first few months, or the first time I was dabbling around and playing around. That's where I was like breaking even, or sometimes I was in the red, then I was way in the green, and then I was just ending up breaking even, because I was just running after the dollar value. Yeah, right. I was just running after it instead of just analyzing or like reading the information I have on the screen. I'm running after it. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's weird to explain, but the key point here, and most of the thing that somebody can read or learn online, is trading is it's emotionally draining. It's you have to be strong psychologically, like, meaning you have to take breaks. Sure, you want to make money, but if you're chasing money in trading, sometimes it might not be the right approach, but at the same time, you're doing it because you want to make money. And so it's a fine balance, because you're investing. It's a fine balance between reading the information and not running too much after money. Like you don't want to be blinded by it.
Right. So basically, you found out that what the books meant is the millionaires and what you read in the books were right. Like, you have to have the right mindset to do this.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like it can be highly addicting and like depressing at the same time.
It's a very good point. As a matter of fact, I got married last year, and I was really into it, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna take a break of like investing, and I took a break 3 to 6 months, and then I went slowly and gradually back into it. Right now, I am like, every morning I get up because that's something I enjoy, and fortunately for me, my wife, like, she supports me. But yeah,
and that's important. And that's important in investing.
Yeah, it is. It is important. Yeah, it is important. The one thing, like, I always tell her, my wife, sometimes she asks me like, oh, how did it go? And I don't like to tell her like, oh, I made like $1,000, because if I say that in my mind, that's the same thing. Like, the next day I will expect to do the same or even better.
Right.
You know what I mean?
You're setting
the
standards pretty high.
Exactly. But
and you
the thing
put up
is,
dollar value to it.
Exactly. And I told her, like, it might not be the right approach. I want to see things with a percentage, like, oh, I did like 1% or 2%, because the market does not, maybe some days it's not giving any opportunities, right? Some days it's just not doing anything, or it just goes down, or it goes up, and it doesn't give you a chance to get into a trade. And so maybe one day you can get a good opportunity and make thousands, and then the next day you're just looking at the screen for like 3-4 hours and you're not seeing anything. And again,
it's almost like fishing.
Yeah, exactly. That's a perfect image. And the thing is, sometimes you are like, I will be staying 3 hours in the front of the screen, and I'm like, I haven't taken a trade yet. What's going on? Like, am I not seeing anything? There is something there, and then that's the wrong approach. The market sometimes does not move. There's some days you don't need to invest. You just need to sleep. And so some days I just go back to bed. To go back to bed.
Because you wake up at 3 in the morning.
3 in the morning, because we're in Hawaii, so the stock market opens at 3:30 in the morning during winter time. Then it changes at 4:30 in the morning in fall. Just the time difference between with New York. And so sometimes, like, you don't need to trade. And so it gets on your mind, because you're like, oh, yesterday I make $1,000. Now I'm not making any dollar. Like, what's going on? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So definitely you need to have the right mindset because you can't be out here just chasing numbers in dollar signs from what you're saying. If you're, because you've been doing it for the what, like 3 years now?
Yeah, I started like 3 years ago, just dabbling around, and very
Right.
seriously now for like over a little bit over a year, very like more seriously or so.
Okay, yeah. And you were able to show me on your laptop when we talked about what it is that I actually do. It looks like gibberish to me, but obviously like you understand it more better. Um, and like you said, it's definitely, you have to be invested in it
Mhm.
because you wake up at 3 and invest until what, 10 in the morning?
Um, for example, this morning I woke up at 3 and then I went back to sleep like around 5.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, okay.
So I don't stay up the whole session of the market. Um, I will just like, yeah, just stay for like 2 or 3 hours, and then it slows down. The market slows down because it's
Mhm.
lunchtime in New York, and so yeah, it's just slowing down. And then you have more volatility after lunchtime. So usually I'm like the first 2 3 hours, and then I start to be emotionally drained in the morning. So I'm like,
Right,
okay, I'm gonna
right.
go back to bed, and I'm thinking, some often I think that, oh, if I go back to bed, I'm gonna miss some plays, so some good movement. But I've developed I guess it's a skill to like, it's okay, it's fine.
Right.
Like I did good this morning, or even like I didn't trade. It's okay. The market's gonna be here tomorrow. Like it's not. It's gonna be here for the next 30
Not,
years. So
yeah, not to worry too much about opportunity cost. Yeah, just like,
exactly, yeah, yeah,
right.
because it can be addictive. It can be really addictive.
That's really cool. Thank you so much for sharing that. Moving on just a little bit, and if you want to share more about investing, we can still talk about that. But about saving money, and you shared your experiences with me about saving money. But like, what would be your advice be to people, especially like students right now, who are
Mhm.
maybe are on their way to school or in school? Like, what would you be advice about saving up for school or all that stuff?
Um, the first thing that comes to mind is it's funny because I see a lot of students, when they get a paycheck, um, a lot of them, they just it just go away the same day. They go grocery shopping, or they just go shopping, buy clothes and everything. I mean, it's great, whatever floats your boat. But the way I say it is, if you want to continue your study, or if you want to invest into your retirement fund, a good thing to do is to open a Roth IRA account, right? And then
Hmm.
you can deposit like $50 every paycheck, or even $100. Now it may not seem a lot, but over the next 30 years, even 50 years, um, at the end, like when you're going to cash that out at 65 years old, it's gonna be over $1 million. And so it's like it's a little bit those little things, those little
Right.
investments, they add up, yeah. And so I think sometime from what I've seen, it might not be true, but I think that people dollars, it's just $20.
Mhm.
You're right, it's true, yeah, it's just $10 or $20. But if you do that every other week, instead of just um going out, eat often, um you can cook your own food, or there are ways to like go around and save money. But at the same time, I'm like, I would not privilege saving money. I would not like be on the other extreme where you want to save money 100%, because it's also a psychological thing. Like you do want to enjoy yourself. If you're dating or married, it's important to, and that's something I came to learn from my mom or my brothers. That sure, yeah, it is important to save money, but it's also important to take care of yourself and your wife, and to enjoy life. Yeah. I guess it's a fine balance between putting money aside and just enjoying yourself. As of right now, the way I see it as well is because I'm a student. My pay is not like I have a job still right now, yeah, and I'm
Right,
thinking,
right.
yeah, I don't make a lot. And so like once I have a stable job with all the benefits and a stable income, I'm like, I can afford to put money aside more, because on a
Mm.
student pay, when you're making $10 an hour, it can be tight. Like, and I can totally understand that when you need to repay, when you need to pay like student loan or scholarships or stuff like that, I
Mm.
can understand that. And so um it's a fine balance to get. It's really hard. I remember my first year when I came to school, I was not going out a lot, probably like once a month or once every other month. And I
Wow.
did saving up like a good amount of money. And then I have some friends that's what I will do at first, and that's how I get introduced to investing. I had friends that would come to me and were like, "Hey, can I get $300?" And I was like, "Sure, you can get $300, but you have to pay me back with 10%, meaning like
Mm.
330." And you were like, "Yeah, deal." And I was like, "Great, I just made $30 here,
Right.
right?" And so I will send them money via Facebook Messenger, 300, and they will be happy. Like they will buy whatever, like PS4 or like some clothes or food, and then
Mm.
their next paycheck will go to me because they had to repay me. And so I will do that like a few of them, few with them. They were like, "Oh, can I have $50?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you know the drill, 10%, 50
Right.
means 55, and then 60,
Yeah.
$66." And then I think I've done that several times. And so it's just, because I saved money and they didn't. And so they would come to me. I will
Right.
be like a bank, a bank to them. And so, I mean, they were fine, they're doing fine now. It's but it's at that time, like I was not going out a lot. And then I was going to the cafeteria. I was eating on like at the PCC. And so I was taking advantage of those few, like,
Right.
opportunities to get food around. And then I was just really focused in school. And so by the end of my first year, I got a couple $1,000 saved up. And that's where I was like, I'm not gonna let those $1,000 in my bank account, because the APY at Hawaiian Bank, it's not that high. And
Mm.
so I was like, I can get more if I put that into the stock market. And that's where I was like, I decided to buy a few stocks here and there.
Mm.
But again, I didn't know what I was doing, so it was pretty much gambling for me at that time. Yeah.
That's really cool. So what and when go so it's all connected with you, like saving. You saved up and then you started like doing loans, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
And you started to gain more money, and but you don't, that's not, as far as finances, that's okay, right? What you did, like saving. But as far as like psychological warfare, I mean, welfare and mental welfare, you wouldn't recommend like not going out. I mean, you wouldn't recommend going out once a month or all that stuff.
I don't know. I think it's important. I'm not much of a party guy.
Mm.
Like I like to party, but I don't really like to party like every other day or every week. That's just my personality. Yeah.
Right, right,
And so because of that, I don't go out often. However, I do believe that it's important, and I think the pandemic has shown that a lot of people are being depressed, being closed at home, or don't have
right,
much social interaction. And so I can understand how others, they can need that. They need to go to theaters,
right,
they
right,
need to go to the bowling alley, they need something. Like if you go into the club, there are people that like that. Like I'm not one to judge, if it's whatever floats your boat. If it helps them
right.
to be mentally healthy, sure, it is an investment.
Mm.
um, but at the same time, if you privilege partying and going out a lot, that's where I'm like, I'm not into that much. It's a fine balance that is adjustable to
Right.
everyone, and it is different to everyone. um yeah.
And it's sad, um seeing from a financial perspective. It's bad when you don't have $300 and you're going someone and asking someone else for it to buy. And like it doesn't just, at
Yeah,
least to me, it doesn't sound like a financially smart decision to make.
that's true. Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, I there are yeah, it's hard. It's a fine balance and a hard lesson to learn sometimes. I see a lot of people here. They have their parents' credit card. They just came out of high school. They don't really. They haven't really struggled financially,
Right.
and so I think I don't know. For me, I understand the value of investing and saving money because, like, I struggled financially growing up with my family, and now I'm not saying that now I'm well off.
Right.
I'm just saying that now
But
I
you're in
have
a
a
better position.
I would say so. Like I have a better idea of where I want to be in 10 years. And side note, when we have interviews for job and they ask you where do you see yourself in 10 years, I don't think it's a coincidence they ask that. They don't want to see if you see a potential growth with yourself. You know what I mean? And so that thing can be carried not only in a financial side of life, but it can be carried with anything. If you have a wife, where do you see yourself in 10 years? Now I'm not saying very very specific, but the broad picture. Do you do
Right,
you,
right,
do you
right.
have a goal? You know what I mean? And so I think because I struggled a little financially growing up a little bit, that I did have I had a very strong, a very specific goal, and that over time I changed and I adjusted. For example, I wanted to be a doctor, and I changed that completely and went to computer science. Um, yeah, I really wanted, since I was 11, 12 years old, I wanted to come here at BYU Hawaii, and I worked towards it. And now, literally 10 years later, I'm going to graduate from BYU Hawaii. Right now, the next step, I would be like, in 10 years, where do I want to be, right?
Right,
Do I
right.
want to have real estate? Do I want to have a company? Do I want to be retired? Do I want to retire early? Do I want to travel around the world? And now those things, I think it can be adjusted. And I think investing gives, teaches, at least taught me how to see in the long term. Because like I said at the beginning, when I went on YouTube, a lot of people will show you, oh, I made $1,000 in 30 minutes. And a lot of people sees the stock market as a quick money kind of scheme. Like you put money and it just grows like that. Like lately, the hype has been on cryptocurrency and Bitcoin and everything, Dogecoin or those kind of things. And a lot of people, it's true, there are people that became millionaire at the beginning of the year. They didn't they had $30,000 invested last year, and then right now they are millionaire. Like it's true, it's very very true, yeah. However, those are outliers. That
They're
they're
exceptions
not.
to the
They
rule.
are
Yeah.
exceptions,
They're not the
exactly. Yeah,
rule.
yeah, and social media will put a heavy light on them because they went millionaire like within a month, which is hard to do, and great for them, but the problem is I don't like when it teaches bad behavior to the young people that are coming to this financial market, because there is hard work behind, and it's not fostering the willing to put work. You know what I mean? Uh, it's emotionally draining. There's a lot of things going on in the background, and so it's not teaching people that it's a job.
Right,
And so
right.
if it's again, like it's a fine balance to see, to have, yeah, specifically in that financial market. It's hard. That's bottom
Right.
line. It's hard. It can be
No,
hard.
no. Yeah. I understand what you're saying. I just want to say that for our listeners and those watching, like I think Will here is a very great example of setting goals and making plans. And if you're okay, well, yeah, the first thing before I get into all of this, like it sounds like a lot of what you're saying is invest and then invest in yourself, because that's what you're doing. You've invested, like you barely just done investing money wise, right?
Mhm.
But like you said, 10 years ago, you started to, you set goals and you made plans and invested in yourself that you were able to achieve your dreams. Like, for example, graduating from BYU Hawaii 10 years later, that you were able to do that.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I just want to say that I admire you for being an example in that way. And I'm grateful that not just for coming on in the podcast, but just like seeing you do your thing on social media and just sharing your knowledge with people, your wealth of knowledge with people. And I just want to say that we need more people like you, definitely with Pacific Islanders, as far as money is involved, right? We need more voices
Mhm.
like you to speak out and educate and inform our fellow youth, you know, especially I don't know, it's hard to teach the older generation new things, um, but definitely like this generation who's very tech savvy. And like when I was younger and like I was really invested in learning about Western culture, the American culture, and I never really came across the, what do you call it, the market, Wall Street. I never really came
Mhm.
across that. I've seen that there's a huge push for it in pop culture now because of people like Elon Musk, Wolf of
Yeah.
Wall Street, that movie, and then there's just like hype about investment, right? But from what I remember in pop culture, like 10 years ago or however long ago, there wasn't much of that, so we didn't really know as much. But like I see people out there talking about, because it's in the news cycle, everyone's talking about cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, Dogecoin, like Elon Musk, right? It's a
Mhm.
conversation, but it's all very surface, like the GameStop thing, right?
Yeah.
It's all very surface conversation because it's all, a lot of it is from the news, from social media. It's instant information, and that's all it is. You just see it, read it, and you're like, oh wow, that's so cool. Someone made like $2 million. They invested this much, but they don't understand the hard work, the dedication that it gets you. And like you talked about, that you need to have a certain mind frame. I didn't even think of it as an addiction until you talked about it. And yeah, it's like I check my bank account every day to make sure that there's no
Ending. Yeah.
yeah, there's no pending like transactions, and I make sure that like
I feel
nobody,
you. Yeah.
yeah, I'm constantly doing that. And that can be addicting sometimes, you know.
Mhm.
Just constantly checking on your money. And if you have like money in your account that's in the thousands, which is rare for students, but you're constantly checking, like making sure that everything is good.
Mhm.
Um, but if you're talking like investment and if you're making thousands like every other week and stuff, like I can see how that can be like addicting, you
Mhm.
know.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, like I said, like I'm grateful that you came on to share your knowledge, to share your experience. Um, And just for, yeah, that's what I was gonna say. And for our listeners out there, like one of the reasons why I asked Will on is that he's not just like, you know, your everyday social media um investor that you like, part-time investor that people like post, oh, look at my portfolio, like this is how much I'm doing. Like Will actually is getting so good that he's going to start teaching investment, like doing it online and stuff. Do you want to talk more about that? Maybe input your like
Yeah. Yeah.
program.
I'm in the process of releasing a course on trading, but specifically trading in the futures market with a technical point of view, meaning that I don't go over like reports and news. I only base this class on chart reading, so like the price movement and everything, the candlesticks, um, just on futures market. And it's called My Futures. There's a pun in there, just to know it's my future that I want to invest, but also targeting the futures market. I want to do that because first I started to teach other people, face to face or online, how to trade and whatnot. But then I came to understand that the more I teach, the better I understand myself, the better I understand trading in general, or investing.
Right.
And so I did that for me first. And it sounds cliche to say that, but honestly, trying to explain complex stuff or theories with simple words that an 8-year-old could understand it is kind of hard, because it's a financial and highly competitive market. And so I'm here, okay, what example or what word can I use to better explain those concepts? Because it's a matter of, because here's the thing: when you're a newcomer or a new investor, you're playing against people like in Wall Street. Those guys, they have PhD in statistics, in math. Like, you're playing against heavy fishes. Right. And so if you don't come with the right knowledge, you're going to burn yourself out, and you're going to blame your loss on somebody else. Like, oh, Elon Musk tweeted about Bitcoin. That's his fault. That's why it fell. Or, oh, it's Biden's fault. Biden is new president. He doesn't know what he's doing. It's his fault. If you're a newcomer and you're losing money in the market, that's not other people's fault. It's hard to admit it, but that's your own fault. That's something, it's a hard pill to swallow. And that's why I want to do it. I want to, like I said, educate people on supply and demand, on those kind of things, because there is money to be made there. There is a lot of work to be made there. But at the same time, I want to show people that this market is not for everyone. So I'm gonna release it for like an affordable price. It's not out yet, but I'm currently editing the videos. But I want to show that, hey, if you're willing to put in the work, great, go for it. If it doesn't interest you, then it's not for you. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, investing in the stock might not be for you. It might not be for you right now. It might be the wrong time for you to get into that, because you don't have the mindset yet. Maybe next year, maybe in 5 years, who knows? I want to release that just to teach about trading. Just trading in general. Like, there is something to take advantage of. There's some money to make there, but I think it's important to understand that. Again, it's a hard market. It's a real job. It is considered as a real job. You pay taxes on that, on the gains you make. So it is a real job, and I think people don't understand that completely. That's a job that you can learn.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that. I just thought of something. What we're going to call this episode, and if you're okay with it, I'm going to title it "Investing in," and in quotation, "My Futures."
Sounds good. Yeah.
That's what you're calling a course, right? My Futures.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Awesome. That's what we're going to call this episode. And I think we're about running out of time, but like, I'm going to give. Do you have anything else to share before, like, I give you my last question?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Who has been the 3 most influential people to you and in your journey with finances, I guess I should add?
I was it's funny because I was actually thinking about that last week or so. And it's weird. It's weird to say that, but I will say, okay, hear me on that one. I look up on who I am going to be in 10 years.
Okay, I like that.
I was thinking when I was 11, 12, I was in Talanoa Street with my mom walking towards campus. And I remember telling her, that's where I need to be, that I need to be here. And I ended up here, 10 years later. And I was thinking about that. And I think that I look up to myself in 10 years. It's not like a prideful thing, but it's just a motivation Like I want to catch up to myself in 10 years. You know what I mean? Like the goal or where you want to be. And so it's almost like I want to know who I am in 10 years. Like it's a constant discovery of who I am, you know, understanding how I feel, understanding my feelings, understanding my like what I like and what I don't like. And I want to figure that out about me in 10 years. And so how I do that, you know, I do that through school, through reading and all that stuff. But that's something, you know, I'm not constantly, but I often think like where I'm going to be in 10 years kind of thing. Other people, I do look up to, you know, the big guys, you know, you have Warren Buffett that have incredible stories on how he invested. He has a very different way of investing. Or you have people like Mark Zuckerberg and how they came to be. Or you have other people, you know, they might not be billionaires. You have other people in the communities with their own experience. They might not be rich, but they're the happiest people. They're the happiest people in the world. And I remember telling to my wife, I think last year when pandemic hit, like I was stressing a lot financially, like how we're going to do. And I remember telling her, or her telling me, how we're going to be the happiest idiot in the world. Like it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where we are. We're the happiest idiot in the world. And that being said, she's one of the people, you know, after I would say after me looking in 10 years where I'm going to be, she is a role model because she doesn't have a filter with me. So she will tell me like, no, that's wrong. No, you're wrong, kind of thing. You know, because it's easy, like when we post things on social media, it's easy to get likes or people praising you. And then you have my wife on the side that calls me, like she gives me a reminder to get back to earth, you know, like I don't know, like don't get too cocky. You're not, yeah. She doesn't say that, but pretty much like be careful to not fly too high, you know.
Fly too close to the sun. Icarus.
Exactly, yeah. Exactly. And so I like that because, you know, I don't think we need to have billionaires or very like highly successful people as a role model so that we look up. I think we need to, at least personally, just somebody that can remind us, you know, where we're at, where we want to be, and just remind us, you know, like we have things to work on, but also remind us that we did some progress. You know, it's important to recognize the progress we made. It's also important to recognize that, you know, we're not perfect. We still have a long way to go. And, but yeah, you know, it's hard to say that. It's hard to say like who I'm looking up to because it will change over time. There's so many, they will change over time, but like I'm really attached to the person I'm going to, you know, to become in 10 years. Maybe a father, probably a father, like, yeah, stuff like that. Like, oh, am I going to have one house, two house, like who knows, a business, or I don't know. I just want to see, I just want to discover myself more and more.
Yeah, invest in your futures.
Invest in your futures, yeah, exactly. That's the whole, you know, honestly, when I designed that, that's the whole purpose of this course, my future. Like you matter, you know, your whole entity matter, and you should know that.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being on the Let's Talanoa podcast. Everyone, that was William Tuahivaatetonohiti, all the way from the islands of Tahiti, sharing with us his experiences and his knowledge. This was a great Talanoa session, and I'm grateful that we had it. And also, we might look forward, hopefully, when you're more successful, to have future sessions as you run your courses and stuff. And hopefully in the future, we can connect up and have another Talanoa session. Thank you, Will.
Yeah, of course. That'd be fun.